The rain was relentless, drumming against the windshield, as Sarah Mitchell gripped the steering wheel with trembling hands. In the back seat, her 6-month-old baby, Noah, whimpered softly, his tiny body burning with fever. Sarah kept glancing at the rearview mirror, panic tightening her chest with every shallow breath he took. "Please hold on, sweetheart," she whispered, tears blurring her vision. "We're almost there." Just hours earlier, Noah had been smiling, his small fingers wrapped around hers. Then the fever came suddenly, his skin scorching, his cries weak and hoarse. Sarah had tried everything she could at home. But when his little body began to shake, fear overpowered reason. She wrapped him in a blanket and rushed into the storm, praying the hospital wasn't too far. The emergency entrance lights finally appeared, glowing like a lifeline in the dark. Sarah ran inside, her soaked hair clinging to her face as she clutched Noah to her chest. "My baby, please, he has a high fever," she cried to the nurse at the desk. Within minutes, they were rushed into a treatment room. Sarah paced the floor, rocking back and forth, murmuring prayers she hadn't spoken in years. Her mind drifted to a name she tried desperately to forget. Ethan. Ethan Carter, the man she once loved more than life itself. The man who had promised her forever, only to walk away when she needed him most. She shook her head, forcing the memories back. This wasn't the time. Her baby needed help. The door opened. A doctor stepped in, tall and calm, flipping through Noah's chart. "Mrs. Mitchell," he began, and then he looked up. The air seemed to vanish from the room. Their eyes locked. His expression froze, the professional calm shattering instantly. "Sarah?" Her heart stopped. Ethan stood there in a white coat, stethoscope around his neck, looking exactly as she remembered, older, more tired but still painfully familiar. The man who had broken her heart now held her baby's file in his hands. Sarah swallowed hard. "I didn't know you worked here. I didn't know you had a child," Ethan replied softly, his gaze drifting to Noah. The silence between them was heavy, filled with years of unspoken words. Sarah instinctively pulled Noah closer, fear and protectiveness surging through her. "He's very sick," she said firmly. "Please, just help him." Ethan nodded, instantly slipping back into doctor mode. "I will, I promise." As he gently examined Noah, his hands steady but his eyes troubled, Sarah felt emotions she thought were long buried rise painfully to the surface. This wasn't how she imagined seeing Ethan again. Not in a hospital, not with her child fighting a fever, and not with a past that refused to stay silent. Outside, the storm raged on. But inside the room, a far greater storm was just beginning, one made of love, loss and secrets that could no longer remain hidden. Ethan moved quickly, issuing calm instructions to the nurse while his mind raced. Noah's tiny body lay on the examination table, his skin flushed, his cries weak. Ethan checked his vitals, listening carefully to his breathing, his jaw tightening as concern settled in. "It's a high fever," Ethan said gently, glancing at Sarah. "But you brought him in at the right time. We'll get it under control." Sarah nodded, clutching her hands together to keep them from shaking. She watched Ethan work with a mix of fear and disbelief. This man, once so close to her, now stood between her and her worst nightmare, not as her past love, but as her child's doctor. As Ethan examined Noah more closely, something caught his attention. The baby's eyes, deep brown just like his own. The curve of his nose, the tiny dimple that appeared when Noah whimpered. Ethan felt a sudden sharp pull in his chest. "How old is he?" Ethan asked, keeping his voice neutral. 6 months, Sarah replied quietly. Ethan's fingers stilled for just a fraction of a second. 6 months. His mind did the math without mercy. His throat tightened, but he forced himself to remain professional. "We'll run some tests," he said. "Blood work, just to be safe." When the nurse stepped out with Noah, silence filled the room. Sarah stared at the floor, her heart pounding. She had known this moment might come one day, but she never imagined it would be like this. "Why didn't you tell me?" Ethan asked softly. Sarah looked up, tears brimming in her eyes. "You left, Ethan. You said you weren't ready for responsibility. And then, you were gone." Ethan closed his eyes briefly, guilt washing over his face. "I was scared. I thought I was doing the right thing." "No," Sarah whispered. "You were doing what was easy." The nurse returned, breaking the tension. "The fever's responding to treatment. He'll be okay." Sarah let out a sob of relief, her knees nearly giving out. Ethan instinctively reached out, steadying her. For a moment they stood frozen, two people bound by a past they could no longer deny. "I should have been there," Ethan said, his voice breaking. "For you, for him." Sarah looked at Noah, now sleeping peacefully. "What matters is now," she said. "He needs honesty. And so do I. Ethan nodded, his eyes glistening. If there's even a chance he's my son, I want to be in his life, not as a doctor, as his father. Sarah studied him carefully, searching for the man she once loved and the man he had become. Slowly she nodded. Then don't disappear again. Outside, the storm had finally passed, and in its quiet aftermath, a fragile new beginning took shape, built not on promises, but on truth, responsibility, and a love that refused to stay buried.